Welcome to this masterclass on leadership growth in the age of AI for new vision, innovation, and strategy for intelligent scaling in the coming 5 years. The main question we will try to answer today is how to decide if your human and AI team alignment is right. So the goal is to gain deeper insight into the real intelligence that is at play here and how you can apply it to your everyday leadership decision-making process. Now, since this is a complex topic, I've tried to make it simpler without losing sight on what's at stake. The organization needs to run smoothly, the people need to feel appreciated, the systems need to work, and in effect, the bottom line needs to grow. Therefore, we will focus on one easy-to-understand mind map for wise decision-making. The reason we're diving into this topic is partly personal, partly professional. My background is in metaphysics, also known as the science of wisdom, and this philosophical discipline has since its origin laid emphasis on rigorously researching what wisdom is and how to apply it. In my personal life, this research has helped me many times in coming to better decisions, even when I went through some difficult times. In my professional life, this discipline has helped me to adopt new ways of thinking, which seem especially important in the past few years with the rise of new technologies like AI. That's why I can now confidently say that I have the skill set to prepare for the future and that I know how I can help others with that too. So let's zoom in on wise decision making. Since today's economic emphasis is mostly on data processing, information gathering, and knowledge accumulation, I want you to imagine for a moment how it can make a difference for you if you take a step back from that and instead focus on wise decision making. How do you come to that? At the end of this masterclass, you will have a unique thinking tool at hand which can serve you in that respect. Plus, you'll get an opportunity to explore the wise use of that tool further. I promise I will share it here in its entirety, but beware that it's not just a nifty gadget. It contains an active principle that works best in actual conversation, and that conversation has already begun. Uh, because current and previous clients have asked me to teach on a variety of topics, and maybe you recognize yourself in one or more of them. How to raise consciousness and awareness, how to lead through transformation, how to achieve a higher order intelligence, how to align my vision with strategy and purpose, how to build a better leadership team, how to decide to get greater ROI from our AI initiatives, and how to sharpen focus instead of just being busy. Maybe you recognize yourself in one or more of these questions. So I will show you potential answers to all of that. So this will go relatively fast. Therefore, turn off all distractions, take notes, and let yourself immerse in what we'll cover. First, let's dive into some numbers. Research shows that, among other things, 30% of CEOs are concerned with the question, are we transforming our business fast enough to keep up with AI? 33% of global CEOs and 46% of US CEOs say that their top priority is what ROI do we expect from each major AI program and how do we measure it? 56% of organizations report that their AI implementations have not resulted in increased revenue or reduced costs over the past 12 months. It's quite remarkable. And poor, delayed, or indecisive decision making, or decision avoidance, is estimated to cost companies roughly 7 to 10% of total revenue due to the lost productivity in stalled projects. And 50% of CEOs believe the tight labor market will have a major long-term negative impact on profitability, driven by a scramble for AI-ready talent. So do you relate to this, one or more of these points? Please type in the chat box what relates most to you, so I can connect the goals of this masterclass with your most pressing challenge or concern. So To go to our goals today for this masterclass, to keep it simple and in an overview, it's first and foremost to have having a quick and easy way to refocus on what matters most. Secondly, to getting better decision-making processes in place. And three, gaining foresight for more ROI on talent and AI. So my question for you, would it be great if we accomplish this? So I think so, and let's get ahead with it. But before we begin moving faster towards those goals, let me first ask you another question. Did you ever pay good money for a leadership training program, membership in a mastermind group, or roundtable sessions in a luxury environment? And was it worth the investment then, or was it in hindsight sometimes more marketing you received than real magnificence? And for context, in the past 12 years, I've invested tons of money myself in attending those remarkable events from a variety of trainers, coaches, and consultants, both online and offline. Of course, I learned a lot, and some were better than others. Some were really magnificent, and others were on a learning trajectory as well. So there were other valuable points to learn there. So alongside my own learning trajectory, I started my own programs and mastermind groups. And that's also a very good way to learn more about all these things. So yeah, I decided to also write books, gave workshops, seminars, master classes to have experience with all these different formats. And I facilitated roundtable sessions and philosophical thought expeditions. All that resulted in the thinking tool that I want to share with you today. So I comprised it all for quick overview purposes. Because that gave me such clarity, confidence, and constructive ideas to navigate these times that we're in now. So, but the bottom line, though, is all about the outcomes and results you can get, of course. So, how would you then value the worth of your potential investment into this educational and practical growth support system? Mind map with the philosophy accompanying it. Personally, I will pay what I can for what I really value, whether this is with money, attention, or a longer investment plan that allows for allocating budgets, especially when there are certain benefits that might not immediately be tangible in terms of materialistic goods, but that actually become realized in the longer term. And that has to do with innovation, investment, research, development, all these things, of course. So for a clear overview of what this means, we can gather the benefits under these points. And there's thorough research behind this as well. People typically say they have increased goal achievement, so 95% success rate. And because the right training, support, and accountability can truly help you move the needle and hit those daily targets. There's improved action taking, 78% increase according to research. Because trust in guidance and peer level advice gives clarity on what to do, when to do it, and how to delegate when necessary. Faster problem solving that yeah, could save hours, weeks, or even months. Because often, even in one hot seat session, a breakthrough insight is reached to act upon instead of researching or drifting for unaccounted time before radical steps become necessary. Then there's the advantage of collective knowledge and the third mind, so higher order intelligence, because by the dynamics of the thought power that is stimulated and released by a group of people with a broader, wider, and better focused scope, new ideas, talents, and untapped potential can come to the fore. And one major benefit as well is that growth and revenue increase, often within 1 year instead of 3 to 5. Because when more than 50% of the attendees primarily join a mastermind or roundtable session with concentration on scaling their bottom lines and enhancing their treasures, something magic happens. And that is that a tipping point is reached and the right direction becomes obvious. So it clears a lot of clutter then. In effect, better decisions will be made virtually on autopilot simply because what no longer works will be replaced by what does work. Okay, so This coming together in a mastermind or round table setting with the right tools clearly works. But will it also work for you? That's always the question. And doesn't it cost a lot of time or money to invest up front? So this could be the point where I make you a proposal to become a member of my new mastermind. uh, But I'm not doing that here. Because first, as promised, I want you to experience firsthand the benefit of the specific tool that I mentioned. It took me well over 20 years to develop it with this simplicity. But don't let the simplicity make you think that there's no substance in it. Because there's a lot of substance and hard-earned wisdom embedded within it, even if some things already seem evident. And that's kind of a bias we have when it looks simple and evident that we think we have it all covered. But yeah, it's not always the case. Maybe it is the case, we will see that. So let me take a sip of water while you grab your pen or device for taking notes, because this matters. Here's the three-step system and one first quick draft mind map. And it's very basic, very simple. So we have innovation in the center, vision and strategy, and then an arrow that goes different lines. We have some imagery in it that illustrates what it's about, and it are all familiar words, right? So that's why this oversimplified mind map in itself won't do that much for you. And you probably already have things in place for each of these categories. But when looked at it from a different perspective, a whole new horizon opens up. So let's unpack it and dive deeper with more clarifying details. And I promise you, you get a more elaborate and inspiring and beautiful illustration afterwards. Since it is at first a linear representation of the crucial elements that in reality have an actual, continuous, and reciprocal influence on each other, it's good to get clear again on what each component entails. First, vision. This is about why it matters, what you want to be, do, and have as a person, a leader, as a company, as an organization. Secondly, innovation. This is about what is needed anew and when in order to make the vision a living reality. And three, strategy. This is about how you can create and build the systems and culture to get from where you are to where you want to be. So it's very basic and essential, but it's good to yeah, anchor that again. Now, leadership is responsible primarily to formulate the vision. Research and development is responsible primarily to drive innovation. Management is responsible primarily to execute on the strategy. All three segments, though, require a different form of leadership with its own intelligence, while at the same time being informed and inspired by the others. That's the reciprocity I talked about. Thus, we need visionary leadership, thought leadership, and pragmatic leadership. And only when these work well together, we can come to wise decision making. Visionary leadership then provides a purpose and North Star to aim at, long-term value horizon, uh, governance principles, and ethical boundaries, and other things, of course. Thought leadership then provides AI opportunity sensing. uh, where are the opportunities? We're in the middle of that to calibrate to it. But it also allows for experimentation and learning loops and to have processes for that in place, capability building, and adaptive intelligence. So a different form than artificial intelligence. And then pragmatic leadership provides strategic choices and trade-offs, an operating model, KPIs, OKRs, cadence, and resource allocation. Taken together, this illustrates how organizational coherence only emerges when vision, innovation, and strategy remain continuously aligned, even when going through periods of turbulent and rapid change. In the age of AI, artificial intelligence in this case, where we are learning to adapt to new forms of intelligence that interplay with our own natural forms of intelligence, like rational, emotional, spiritual, adaptive intelligence, leadership growth then depends on the capacity to integrate foresight that's coming from vision with adaptive intelligence that comes from innovation and disciplined execution that comes from strategic pragmatism, and then all into one coherent decision architecture. Do you have that in place in your organization? That all-in-one coherent decision-making architecture? If not, or only partly, the mind map can really help. That's why I give you now, as promised, the more elaborate, inspiring, and beautiful illustration of what we just covered. And you can see it here in small on the slide. And it took me quite a long time to construct it like this, but with the help of AI, it became a beautiful illustration with depth, symbolism, etc. So it may look simple, but it has many symbolic layers embedded in it. That goes back to ancient wisdom, but also to futuristic insights. So here's a bit larger overview of it. And to summarize, what you see here is that we have the three steps: vision, innovation, and strategy, positioned here in a logical ascending and descending sequence. So vision is like the North Star at the top, and from there we create steps and we need to innovate and adapt a strategy to make it real, to realize it. So that's the descending part of it. But ascending is that we already have strategies, coping mechanisms, processes in place, and that then asks for innovation if we want to create new results, new outcomes. So we can enlarge our vision again. So that's the ascending aspect of it. The title and the subtitle describe the larger, even cosmological framework in which we nowadays operate, or where we need to put more attention on. So, intelligent systems, says the mind map. You could say that our solar system is also some part of intelligent system, because it's very intricate how everything works together, and if it wasn't exactly like it is now, life on Earth wouldn't be possible. Um, but because we are also becoming more and more aware of how that works, there are enterprises and endeavors to, for example, go to the moon, go to Mars, and to create life sustaining systems there for us. So we're in a different cosmological framework than we were 100, 200 years ago. So it's something to think about, and it's a lot what drives innovation as well. So the pyramidal mountain in the middle, the valleys and the horizon, they have a symbolic value. Um, they have all a subtle points of connection as overlay, and that illustrate that it's all one cohesive, intelligent whole. Nothing is in isolation, even though our rational minds can segment things, categorize things, but it's all one cohesive, intelligent whole, reciprocally influencing one another. So it's important to have that in mind. This altogether symbolically illustrates the mind map for leadership growth in the age of AI in relation to all intelligence. So that's something to ponder, to let sink in for a moment, um, and yeah, experience for a few seconds when you look at the mind map. The next question then becomes, how to implement all this on a daily basis. Before we continue though, let's do a quick check-in. Was this already valuable to you? And you can type in the chat box what your biggest aha moment so far is. And we went from a very simple linear representation to an omnidimensional mind map that illustrates the coherent decision-making architecture between vision, innovation, strategy. So examples could be your aha moment that there are multiple forms of leadership, multiple forms of intelligence, that there is a difference between real, natural, artificial intelligence, um, that there is importance in coherence in decision making. When it's only about one thing, it negatively could positively or negatively affect the other ones. So there also always has to be an interplay. So, what is your biggest aha moment so far, or an insight you'd like to share? Now, because we covered a lot in a short amount of time, let's pause for a second, take a deep breath, and let me ask you, do you think that I have delivered on my promise so far, to give you a first experience of what it could mean to have this powerful thinking tool at hand for your decision-making process? If so, then you're all set and ready to go, or maybe not. And yeah, that's a question, huh? And well, you could say yes and no, of course, because a lot of these things you already thought about, you have it partly in place or very well dialed in place. But still, there are questions or problems or concerns. Otherwise, yeah, they wouldn't be researching or looking to develop further. So, as mentioned, the simplicity of this mind map can make it feel like you got it already handled and in motion. And that may partly be true, and I hope so for sure. But despite that the terminology which is used here is not new, the specific explication with an emphasis on the coherence is. Where most trainings only dial in on one part, or it goes into an elaborate program to then construct it all together again. Um, what is the coherence, the inherent coherence of it all, first and foremost? How can you emphasize that and understand that? That's at play here. So, as an analogy, you could capture an entire philosophy in one quote. For example, the famous one from Albert Einstein, that you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. But it doesn't make any difference if you then don't actually engage with a different mind. In this case, that would be a mind that knows how to decide if your human and AI team alignment is right, because that's the main topic of this masterclass. And you have experienced with the mind map that I provided as a thinking tool that can help you with that decision-making process, because it visually represents the architecture of organizational coherence in the age of AI. Because on each segment you have teams at play, but you can also put AI um, at work there to advance it and enhance what they are doing. So how do you then actually activate and engage with that mastermind principle that's embedded in it and within you and your organization? And how do you find the right specialists, experts, thought leaders, or peers who know more about the respective parts and elements in detail so you can learn from them? And a rising question is, should it be real people, AI agents, or both, in conjunction with each other, in dialogue with each other, but also in dialogue with others? Should we leave it all to the technology, or is it really very important that we keep humans involved in it? Because where are we in business for? Is it only to create machines or let machines become uh, completely self-reliant, or is it that we use that to make people's lives more interesting, better, etc. So that's a deeper question behind it all as well. So there are many ways to find answers to all these questions and concerns, but people who succeed are absolutely committed to finding them, even when it's hard, difficult, or complex to understand, or even when it's tempting to just ask an AI agent or chatbot for some reply. And that question then becomes, can you truly discern or decide whether it provides actual value? That's why, since paying for certain tools doesn't necessarily give you or your employees the insight in how to use them wisely, it's still highly valuable to actually interact with real living people who go through the same thought processes as you do for important decisions. Remember, that's why I also paid a lot for training programs, mastermind groups, etc., and I still do. When I wanted to grow and learn, I needed to deal with pressing timely challenges. And is it worth it, especially now? Personally, I think it is. So, yeah, to tie it all back, as mentioned before, these are the questions you need to consider and answer. How to raise consciousness and awareness, how to lead through transformation, how to achieve a higher order intelligence, how to align my vision with strategy and purpose, how to build a better leadership team, how to decide to get greater ROI from our AI initiatives, how to sharpen focus instead of just being busy. The mind map already gives direction. And direction is one coherent decision architecture that integrates foresight with adaptive intelligence and disciplined execution. Now, you can figure out how to do this yourself with the mind map at hand, and that's a valuable way. Huh? Always, when you learn something by own research, it integrates deeper. But you can also decide to go one step further, and you let me give you an experience of the activation of this mind map in an actual roundtable session. And here's a short overview of what you can experience during such a session. It's a swift refocus on what matters most with a deeper insight in best direction. You get better decision-making process experience in interaction with peers. So by actually talking about it, going in dialogue about it, you sense it, you feel it, it becomes conscious. People ask you questions about it that makes you more aware of it. And that also then helps in gaining foresight for more ROI on talent retention and AI initiatives, because that's then part of the focus, which is then less diluted, but yeah, more placed to the fore. So this is about achieving the goals we talked about today, but then even more suited to dealing with the challenges of uncertainty or the feeling of falling behind. It's deliberately designed for a C-suite leader, board chair, managing director, someone like you, who is busy and doesn't have a lot of time to put into a modular training program. If you're also partly responsible for the human and AI team alignment, that's a pressing problem at the moment, especially in light of the vision, innovation, and strategy implementation of the organization, then this is for you. During the session, you can learn and interact with peers. For example, how they see the challenges and prioritization of solutions, how they do and use more of what's working well, and how they deal with uncertainty and try to adapt quickly, so it can spark ideas in you for direct implementation and delegation. This virtual roundtable session is meant as a safe and proactive space to experience a new mind, because I want you to be able to say, even despite all the turmoil, disruption, and fast-paced change that we're going through, I have the capacity and clarity to make wise new decisions. Wise new decisions. Huh? Isn't that what we all want to be able to do? So before I introduce the investment and registration process, what do you think a virtual roundtable session like this is worth? Please type it in the chat box for reference. While you type your estimate, here's what you get when you decide to attend. We gather live online via Zoom for 60 minutes with focused attention on experiencing a wise new decision-making process. And this is not brainstorming. Instead, it is a calm, deliberate, and mind-opening thought practice. We use the mind map's key components as focal points, and we go around the Zoom room so everyone has a say. We help each other with ideas and insights, and we inspire one another to actually go implement what we learn. And when you decide now to reserve your seat for this roundtable session, you get the bonus guide that I wrote in interaction with AI from the future for free. It is called Lessons from the Future We Are Creating Now, Essential Strategies for Tomorrow's C-Suite Leaders. Participation seat fee is only €255, and you get a 100% money back guarantee if you don't feel you at least received 5 times the value of that, so no questions asked there. For context, if you just get one actionable insight from the virtual roundtable session that saves you 3 months of researching on your own, thinking things through but not finding a solution, or trying to read a few handbooks while still not implementing, would you then want to go back? Would you then want to get back that participation fee? It wouldn't make sense indeed. So therefore, I want to make it even more appealing for you. You do get the additional guide as mentioned, which contains powerfully written short chapters with concrete action steps, KPIs and OKRs, and behavioral shifts you can easily implement today and immediately. But you also get a second bonus that could make it easier for you to decide if your human and AI team alignment is right. The second bonus is an interactive digital version of the mind map for you to download in different formats, so you can print it or put it on screen for daily reference and practical use. You can also share that in the company or the organization or with your board or management team. So you have shared reality and a point of reference, which is the same for all. You went through it, you talked about it, you know what it is, what all the elements mean for you and your organization and the situation it is in. Plus, you get a short, multi-dimensional video that explains the symbolism of the mind map imagery and architectural design, so you can actually experience the power of the principle within it simply by watching the video and listening to its description. That's one of the beautiful things that AI also helps us create, these kind of deeper experiences with a cinematic way of looking at it. So that's the experience I want to give you with this mind map as an additional bonus when you attend the virtual roundtable session. If this sounds good to you, and only if it sounds good for you, then please click or follow this, click the link that I place in the chat box, or follow the link that is written here on the slide. And on the left you can see how it looks when you go to the calendar to book your roundtable session. And there's more info there. Please read it with attention so you're absolutely sure what it's all about and what you can expect. There's one word of advice though. If you want this, you should register now because seats are limited to 12 per table. Otherwise, we can let everyone have a say around the Zoom room during the time of the virtual roundtable session. And remember, it's a focused attention session on experiencing a wise new decision-making process. So it's not brainstorming, it's a focused attention session. This is the timetable. The first 12 who register now can have this roundtable session on Saturday, March 14th from 4 to 5 p.m. Central European Time. It's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Second 12 who register now can have this roundtable session on March 21st from 4 to 5 CET. And the third 12 who register now can have this roundtable session on Saturday, March 21st from 4 to 5 CET. So don't delay your decision. If you don't register now, March will pass, but the problems will continue. And after March, quarter two begins. So will you be ready then? It matters what you decide. Huh? We talked about it today, so decide now and register for one or more of these virtual roundtable sessions at the link provided here. Because, yeah, let's think about the leadership principles that are truly matter if you want to get ahead, stay ahead, and actually have good decision-making processes in the way. It's about making wise decisions, not evasive ones. It's about getting peer counsel, even if it isn't from someone you knew before. And it's about being present and integrating the lessons that you learn. So if you still have questions though, type them in the chat box and provide your email address. We'll then contact you with a directly suiting answer or with an invitation for a conversation. And please don't hesitate to reach out. Don't delay to decide, because this is your moment of choice for leadership growth in the age of AI. And it's first and foremost by being coherent with your human teams and talents intelligence. So leadership growth in the age of AI, that's what we talked about today. And I want to share a last inspirational image. You might see very basic as well. It's a book. It's a self-taken photograph of a book that has had tremendous impact on my leadership growth and development. I've read it for the first time in the early 2000s when I went through a difficult time, and I've read it several times since. But the book was already published in 1977 and written by Professor Herman Berger, who was my personal mentor from 2006 to 2012. I had the honor to visit him at home then, while he was in his 80s and still publishing books every few years, after studying and teaching metaphysics for almost 70 years. The book is an introduction into metaphysics according to a philosophical journey of the soul and the mind from the pre-Socratics to the time of writing. The title means as wide as all reality. Reading this book helped me to realign with my soul's essence and intelligence and be unfolding into realizing my purpose. Now, I think we're all going through a soul-mind realignment journey at the moment. So to think about the meaning of the title, which refers to the essence of the soul, can really help in preparing for your next phase of leadership growth and development, especially in relation to the current probing questions around intelligence and what makes us uniquely human amidst it all. With that said, feel free to register now for the virtual roundtable session for one or for all three, so we can continue our conversation. For now, thank you deeply for attending this masterclass today, and I hope to see you in the nearby future.